Hello, my name is Charles Huang, and I am the oboe teacher at the Hartt Community Division. And today we'll be talking about the Poulenc Sonata for oboe and piano, and get to know all of the instructions and what Poulenc is trying to tell us right away, so you have an idea of what is going on in the piece and also in Poulenc's mind. He entitled it Elegy, this first movement that we're playing, and in the memory of Sergei Prokofiev, the Russian composer, who he knew when Poulenc and Prokofiev were much younger. This is the last piece Poulenc wrote, and as an elegy to his friend who passed away that he knew from a much earlier time, we should know that this piece is in remembrance of the dead. The French at the beginning means peacefully, and it fits an elegy. The section at 6 really harkens back to a lot of what is familiar about the music of Sergei Prokofiev. The aggressive nature of the playing, the double-dotted rhythms, the angular contours of the playing, even when you're lyrical and beautiful, as in the area between 7 and the comma after, about 6 or 7 measures after that, it's still really angular music. Really harkens back to the music of Prokofiev. Might be a good idea to listen to some of Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet too. It would might help you put this music into context. So let's talk about the oboistic challenges to this piece. First and foremost, I think what we all have to deal with is the dynamics of the piece. How are we going to manage pianissimo in all of these different registers, triple P in these low registers, while being able to play double forte at the top and bottom of our scale? Well, really look at your reed. If you know how to adjust your reeds, fantastic. Really pick the reed that is the most comfortable to play on the day of your audition. Don't necessarily pick the reed that has the darkest tone. Don't pick the reed that you think might satisfy other people necessarily. As far as sound, you need to pick the reed that is the most comfortable for you in order to get the low notes out, to have the low notes come in on time, and still strong enough to give you a really stable high register, and that allows you to project. So on those, once you have that comfortable reed, I suggest you practice your long tones in order to negotiate the beginnings and endings of your notes, right? We have a lot of piano Gs and low Ds and all those things. I like to practice things with a breath attack, and then alternating that with tongue attacks. Those last two are tongued, and they should sound the same. They should feel the same. And I suggest breath attacking the first note. I would tongue the F sharp. That's for me, because I do believe tonguing the note makes it easier to start, especially in that register. So your dynamics. If you practice your long tones with the hairpins, counting from 1 to 5 or 1 to 8, 8 back to 1, you can negotiate a lot of these swells and diminuendos pretty well. Again, pick the reed that's the most comfortable, but also know that all your dynamics are relative. So if, for example, at number 1, you're pianissimo for the beginning, and then in measure 3, you're mezzo forte, well, don't make pianissimo like a decibel level that's always that decibel level. Don't make your mezzo forte always a decibel level that's always that decibel level. In comparison, what is your pianissimo to mezzo forte? one line down in the 3/4 measure in the middle of the line, what is your piano in relation to your double P? So my piano is a bit stronger than you might think in order to make that double P more obvious. Similarly, the next line, the line before, the phrase before 2 and the triple P at 2. Just make the end of the phrase before the triple P a little bit stronger, a little bit more extroverted before you bring it back in. For me, practically speaking, that just means play it as soft as I can while still getting it out. Okay. We talked about dynamics, long tones, the response of your reed, rhythm. So you'll notice if you look at the piano part of your score, you will notice that there is almost always a constant eighth note pulse going on underneath your melodic lines. Practice with that. So I know it says 66. If you practice it a little under, that's fine. If you practice it right at 66, that's cool too. But try putting it at 132 or put the subdivision on for eighth notes. Have a constant da da dee 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 da da dee 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 da da dee da da. So if you have this constant eighth note pulse, if you choose to make some rubato, for example, and I'm pushing and pulling, but because I've practiced with this constant eighth note pulse, when I get to the next measure, I'm on. At the big important points, I'm on. If you just kind of push and pull with rubato without having that metronomic pulse underneath you, without having practiced that, we can tell. And it'll just sound really wishy-washy and kind of, it'll make the listener seasick, really. The only place where I really say you can slow down and take it out of context would be a couple spots. Right before 9, you can take a little bit of retard to really make sure you end that high deep beautifully before the recapitulation right at 9. You can take a little bit of time between the measure before 10 and right on 10. Other than that, I don't advocate for a ton of rubato or a ton of retardando and just taking whatever tempo you want. If you take rubato, if you take time, always have the metronome underneath you so that the next beat is in time. A couple of quick, so I gave you one idea about the beginning, breath attack it. So some other suggestions for fingerings. After 2, the triple P, C, and then low C, it might help you to add these 2 fingers to your C before you go to the low C. It'll make it sound softer. It'll change the tone color, and it'll be easier for, I think, physically just to get down to the low C. You can add fingers to your F sharp and your G if you think they're sharp. You can add the B key if there's any spots like that. One more suggestion. After 5, the trill. Stop the trill and land right on beat 3 of the second measure and just so the last eighth note is a full eighth note, there's no trill on it, and just land on it. So you make sure you end on that A. Rhythm of 6. Okay. Double dotted and then 64th notes. If you really think 1 E and a 2 E da da, 1 E and a 2 E and da da, 1 E and a 2 E and da da, they're really fast. They're practically grace notes before the beat. 1 E and a 2 E da da, 1 E and a 2 E and da da. Make a difference between that and then what you see at 7. 1 D and a 2 E and da da. It's 32nd notes. If you want to think of it as the thing at 7 is more lyrical, that might help. More cantabile, that might help. Notice that at the 3/4, double forte, that the B flat, those are 32nds and not 64ths. You know, I do my best to count 1E and 2E and just to make sure that I'm putting those 64th notes late enough. So for example, at 8, you do your best. Like I said, they're practically grace notes, but and then a measure later, you could, for the grace notes, instead of going B to D natural back to B really fast with a full fingering, which you could do, but you could also use the trill fingering. So B is normal. The grace note D would add this and add this. It's so fast, you just got to support it. They won't be able to tell that it's a trill finger. And on your own or with your teacher, look up every single fingering you can for your high E's to make them the most comfortable for you. Also for your high E flat. If your high E flat doesn't come out, instead of using this finger, the B natural, use the B flat. Okay. It's a beautiful piece. Really try to sing through it. Poulenc was also a great composer of songs. So I hope you enjoyed working on this piece, and I'll look forward to hearing any comments or reading any comments you might have, if you have any. And thank you.